Hello there, Crafty Doer. Jessica Michaels here from the Crafty Doings Mixed Media Paper Crafts. This video is for the Crafty Maven Getaway and our Crafty Maven Summer Rewind online crop. Head over to the Facebook page for a schedule of the challenges and events happening over this weekend. So grab a comfy chair, grab all your crafty things, and let's get into the crafty doings. I am so happy that you are here joining our 90s Rewind online crop that is filled with tons of challenges, games, and freebies and prizes. For my first challenge for this weekend crop, I am challenging you to create a paper craft with a 90s grunge vibe. So I'm going to start off with a craft base, and I'm going to ink up the edges using both cold brew and vintage photo distress oxide. And I do this to get two different reactions when I spritz with water. Not only that, but I get darker edges when I go in with the cold brew and then fade out with some distress oxide. I also really like the way that distress oxide looks on top of craft. It is completely different than using it on a white base cardstock. So I'm gonna go ahead and use my heat drying tool to dry the water as much as I can. Normally, I like to dry the water completely because it is a bit of a difference between letting it dry completely and also lifting up the water with a paper towel. And you'll see here in a bit what I mean by that. And I don't end up just drying it with a tool because I spritz big splatters, big blotches of water, and you'll see the difference between here where it actually was able to dry and then kind of here. See how much like whiter it is? I lifted not only the water but the ink. And so it just depends on what look you're going to, and I actually don't mind that, especially on craft. And the idea of grunging this layout out, I think this works perfectly. It's very prominent, very bold. So for some more grunge, I'm going to distress the edges using my Tim Holtz paper distresser. And I like to go slow for two reasons, specifically on this layout. Number one, it's still a little damp, and so if I go too hard on damped paper, it's going to tear it, and I don't want tears. And number two, this craft is not as thick as other cardstocks, so I don't want to tear. I want to keep the same theme going throughout my layout as far as grunging it up. And paper tearing is a simple way to really distress and grunge something up. So I'm going to go around and just tear all four edges to see what that looks like. I had this idea of crumbling up the vellum. This is vellum, by the way, that if I remember correctly, it's from, which kit was it? It is from the Summer Breeze collection, which is sold out, unfortunately, in the shop, but there's still other goodies that resemble some of these. So when I crumble it up, it actually just deteriorated in my hand. So I'm glad that I didn't test this on this actual background here. So I'm ready to commit, and I am going to adhere it using my Nuvo glue. And I like this glue because it dries clear. As long as you don't mess with it, make a big old mess of it, like smudge it around, even if by accident. So that is why this Nuvo is quickly becoming one of my favorites. I pulled some things from a couple of kits, mostly from the March Spring Blooms Revamped kit, the June Summer Breeze, and also the March Garden. This ribbon is, okay, so let me back up. Why do I love these mixed media kits? Because this color scheme, this color palette that I pulled together for this particular layout doesn't even look like it came from these kits, because they're just so vibrant and just bright, that the fact that I was able to pull all of this, and you'll see what I mean when you see the final look, it's amazing. And that's just what's awesome about these kits, especially if you subscribe to the kit subscription, because then you have all of the kits and you can mix and match yourself. I mean, Hannah already does an awesome job at putting these kits together, but now that you have them all and you can mix match within them, it's a whole nother level. So I grabbed this piece of ribbon from the one kit, and I decide that the black's going to be a part of my design, because the photos I'm scrapping, there's a black t-shirt, and also I feel like there's a little black coming through from this tropical vellum patterned paper. The burlap is also a part of the kit. I'm going to ink blend any strips of paper or burlap that I'm going to use, because the theme here is grunge, and I feel like that brown edging really distresses it all. And I mean, let's be honest here, when I think grunge, I think, dirty, greasy, sad, in a good way sad. That's 90s for me. I love 90s alternative. It is my absolute favorite. And so when I was told we're doing a 90s rewind, I thought, yes, please bring on the grunge. And grunge to me is Incubus and Weezer and Alice in Chains, Red Hot Chili Peppers. Like, if you don't know any of those, look them up and then come back and let me know in the comment section if you like them or if you were already a fan. So I'm going to continue to layer some of these beautiful pattern papers that come in the kits, a script one, and then there was actually a typed paper, and then just make sure that I distress as much as I can. What I'm doing here with the burlap is just pulling some of those strings out. It's the same thing that I did with the black and white polka dot fabric, and I ended up actually making some tears in them, which is, it just adds all to the grunge, which I love, the distressing and all that good stuff. In fact, when I first started crafting almost 3 years ago, it'll be 3 years in a couple weeks, that's all I was gravitated to, was like the grunge and the messy and the distress and all that. And of course, Tim Holtz was like the designer, and I fell completely head over heels over his style, and he is one of the most amazing teachers I have yet to encounter. So that's what I rolled with. And then as years went by, I just started finding my niche, and not only that, but my style as well. And so I think I'm still trying to find my style a little bit. It's only been 3 years, so I think it, not only does it change, but it evolves as I grow and gain more skill and education and experience. But that's here or nor there. These wood veneer leaves, and I think this one is a feather. It looks to me like a feather. I'm still going to use it because it looks like a leaf amongst the other leaves, even if it's not. But it reminds me of the palm trees and all the tropical leaves in the pattern vellum. So I really want to incorporate this. Not only that, but it adds on more to the layering, and that is the other concept to my design, to this layout, is not only grunge but layers on top of layers on top of layers, and that also counts for texture. So I'm using vellum. Well, let's start with the base, craft, then vellum, then It's almost like collage paper, then burlap, and now there's wood veneers. It's just goodness all around. I do have a bit of trouble with these wood veneers. They're quite delicate, and so well, they're delicate, but they're also thick. And so it's just kind of tricky to find a good placement for them. So once I find the good placement, then I'm happy, and then I'll go ahead and adhere them down. So these photos are of my husband and my little boy just hanging out on the couch. He so happened to get brand new sunglasses that day. He tried them on and he left them on, which was very surprising for a 1.5-year-old. So I had to snap these photos. I thought he looked so cool just hanging out with his dad and his new shades. Those glasses were actually for our trip to the beach for our vacation this summer. And so that's all I had on my mind was the beach and just tropical and, waves and water and sunshine. And so when I came up with the title for this, I thought, well, look at my little man looking like a big boy. So my title is Big Shades Tropical Days. And I'm using these alphas from my stash. These are from Vicky Boutin. And I really like it for this particular layout because it brings out the tans and the browns from the burlap and the wood veneer, since I didn't do much to them, and also that typed piece of paper. Because I scrapbook 8x8, if you didn't know, I like to sometimes, often, as much as I remember to mention that, because a lot of times ephemera and alphas and so on and so forth look a lot bigger than they really are, but that's only because my layout is 8x8. I'm going to go in with the smaller alphas for the subtitle, which is going to be Tropical Days. I've had these alphas for the very longest time. These are from Vicky Boutin's Bold and Bright collection. And the thing I despise about using alphas is that, you use up all the letters. And you have a few left, and then what do? You just don't use them because you don't have the letters that you need. So if possible, especially with the collection like these black ones, I like to snip the edges. So I'll snip like the bottom of an I to make a T, and then keep that T, cut that in half, and then use it for an I, where I cut off the horizontal line at the bottom to an L. And so I just really make it work. And I was so glad that I was able to do that, because that was the only way I was able to finish my subtitle. So let me get that done. The black subtitle it kind of got lost, I think, in the tropical pattern vellum. So I'm going to go in with a white Posca marker and just add some highlights to it. Originally, I was just going to trace it, but that wasn't really doing much to it. So although I traced the T and some of the R, I'm going to go in and just highlight the rest of the black letters without outlining it like I did the T and the R, and I think that looks a lot better. I did bring out these buttons and added some of the green and lighter, the darker greens and lighter greens, just for, I don't know, for a fun little piece of texture, I guess. And they came in the kit and I wanted to use them. They're there, and so I found a good use for them. The very last thing to my grunge layout, I want to splatter. So I'm just going to cover my photos and anything that I don't want any white splatter paint. The Dina Wakley Media White Gloss is one of my favorites to splatter with, so long as I don't have a lot of ink, because then it'll just collect it, and then the white will turn into a lighter shade of whatever color it lands on. But this is the final look to my 90s grunge layout. I truly do hope that you are inspired today to reach for your mixed media and create on your paper projects. Don't forget to join the Crafty Maven Getaway Destination group on Facebook for more tips, tricks, and mixed media inspiration. Don't forget to follow me until the next crafty doings.